about it, it's fast, it's aggressive, and it's consequence light. I mean, there's hardly any consequence at that point in time. So are we forced to follow that bad behavior? Is it a good strategy? No. Should we do that? Or can we resist it given the circumstances that are there? So you wanted to say something about this?
Yeah, I think, firstly, it just gives me a feeling that all of us are trying to be moral police by categorizing what is good and what is bad. And I'll give you an example. I think all of us are aware of this gentleman, but he's got probably the biggest criminal record in the history of this country. And that same gentleman's photograph can be seen in the court of law, which is Mahatma Gandhi. Now, what he did then was that bad behavior because the law was such. What he did later was all good behavior. Good and bad is very contextual. I think what is really important to me is the fact that I'll come back to this is really, for me, what distinguishes good and bad is purely one thing, which is ethics. If you are going against the ethics, and what is ethics? As long as you can do something in the presence of somebody, that is ethical. If you are trying to do something and you don't want anybody to watch that, that is unethical. And to me, unethical is bad behavior, nothing else. Now, coming back to an example, very closer to home, and I'm sure these two hotel chains, everybody stayed them, the Oberoi Group. Now, the Oberoi Group, you can do anything that you want, but they will never allow a third person to stay in the room. They only allow 2 people per room. The Taj Group, which is where we are very flexible with that. Now, what is good here, what is bad here, don't know. It is purely a business proposition, is the premiumness. The Oberoi sacrifice that thing because they know that the moment 3 people are staying, it will become like a chawl. And they don't want you to go through that experience. Whereas the Taj proposition is that it's pure convenience and what the customer wants. What is good, what is bad here, we don't know. It is just contextual and what is really your business proposition. But I honestly believe the market never rewards bad behavior. It's only a short-term knee-jerk reaction. If it seems to be good behavior, in the long term, we can pick up the corporate books of history. I don't recall a single instance where bad behavior has actually been rewarded. Because to me, bad behavior is all about being unethical.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting thing, and I do have this thing here where it says that how do leaders face a market where ethics are not enforced by default, right? Ethics have to be there, so you set it, but it's not enforced by default in the market. And therefore, how do you kind of face that? How do you kind of do things like you were saying, somebody is coming, they're defaulting ethics, but the pressures are so much that you have to stand up, at least let's say, to them in the short run. Otherwise you sink. Then how do you kind of go about in that kind of a situation? Yes.
Let me share some incidents we are, as you said earlier, everybody's statement is very endorsable. But how we say the bad behavior, as we know that whenever the bad behavior repeated is rewarded. Whatever the behavior, bad behavior is already, which is we are rewarding, it's repeated again and again. So, and it's a start from the childhood of the individuals. But as in the business model, there's changing so far from the last decade or earlier, we are moving in a race or competitive market, and we are forcing to adopt it to others as well. Like I will say, to inflate sometimes your books. Last month I probably have read the newspaper, one of the bank, there was a complaint in a DFS about the deposits segment. So what was that? If we are recognizing that we are getting that much adding to the book, and that book also not being challenged because nobody has the guts to say no.
Keeping quiet is also rewarding that behavior.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like we are being playing the safe side, but the values and ethics, as we are saying ethics, because it's depend individual's moral value, and it's derived from the individuals as in the company from the top level and from the individuals. One is agree and one is not agree. But sometimes one is get forced, like somebody has to take the credit decision, and the top man is the committee member. If there's 4 members in the committee, who will having the dare to say no to go for?
Right.
Yeah, I just one
Yeah,
point
sure.
on this. I can tell you that, frankly, it's a decision on the individual. And that's the difference between a good company and a bad company, right? And that is the reason why the law changed, where independent directors had fiduciary responsibility and not just a tick box, right? So I think we have to separate between bad behavior of individuals and bad behavior of companies. They're two different things, and really, as the gentleman put it, right, that what is bad behavior is different from different perspectives. So I would say that as individuals, conducting yourself ethically is a form of character and your values. That's how I see it, because there's no guidance on what you need to do, and at that point of time, the decisions you take define where your company is going to end up. The decisions, like for example, in my company that we took, gave us some pain, but really, in the long run, we survived everybody else.
So, would you like to add?
Yeah, I just want to say a
something?
couple of things. First of all, I slightly disagree. There is guidance. So in my company, we go through ethics and compliance training every year. It's a very clear guideline. If you don't know, ask. It's very clear. Number 2, I think what we are talking so far is external forces and top down. What we have not figured out, which I've seen in many cases, bottom up. The leadership, the mid-level managers, the people who are forced on certain KRAs, targets and everything else, if the execution is not quick, if the leadership is not strong, and you're put under pressure to be competitive. So first of all, market is not rewarding bad behavior. They're rewarding competitiveness and performance. They don't care internally what's happening. They're saying if you're competitive, you're performing well, we reward you. You're doing good for us. Internally, I think it's about to the top-down leadership to see what's happening at the bottom. Why are people so pressured? Is it fair or not? Is the execution happening in time or not? Are people forced to take actions which are unethical? Eventually, then, if a CEO has a goal, if somebody does an unethical action and meets his goal, he'll say, okay. I mean, end of the day, we have to figure it out. Let's do it.
I don't
It
think
happens.
so.
It happens.
Those
I mean,
CEOs
because
you look at
if
the banks,
if you dig deeper,
those CEOs get fired, but yeah, that's fine.
But
It's
you
a
know,
difference of opinion.
Different is the latter on case.
I take a clue from the ethics, and I have a personal experience to share. My friend said if it's ethical, it's okay. If it's not ethical, I'll pick a very peculiar example. And if there is somebody from that industry, my apologies. Corporatization of healthcare industry. Is that a good behavior or a bad behavior? And I'll share my personal example. Personally, I've been a sportsman, marathon runner, football player, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, when the age gets better of you, somebody like me, I started getting knee pain. I went to 4 corporate hospitals. 2 of them suggested I should take injections in my knee, and each injection costs about 18 to 20 grands, and these injections will take me for 6 months. And they also told me there is a person sitting here who is the representative of that injection company. Please contact him, give my name, he'll give you a discount. 2 of the other people suggested I need a surgery. And one, the super corporatized hospital doctor, the healthcare expert from London, tells me, well, Mr. Dua, my name is Gulshan Dua, I am going to open your knee and then I will tell you if it's a category A surgery or a category B surgery. The A surgery costs X and the B surgery costs 5X, and you have to then tell me should I do it or not. I'm sharing my live example. London returned doctor says I'm going to open your knee and tell you 50,000 की सर्जरी होगी या 5 लाख की होगी. I say you expect me to tell you अच्छा 5 लाख की सर्जरी नहीं होगी तो just stitch up my knee. As luck would have it, I met a very good friend who had contacts in the Safdarjung hospital. ₹2 wala OPD. 6 months down the line, Dr. Devinder Singh, I am back on my knee. I have ran 6 marathons after that. Now, where do you draw a line on ethics? That doctor has a target. That hospital has a target. But to my friend's point, is it ethical? So, again, a point to think about. bad
But
behavior.
in terms of the business, that's okay.
No, but then ethics, right? I mean, somebody who could have gone with no surgery, no stitches, you're telling him, I'm going to open your knee and then tell you surgery or surgery. And I'm sure all of us have faced something similar with our family or our relatives and so on and so forth.
Market is not rewarding bad behavior or being unethical. Customer is buying besides knowing that they are being duped. And because of that action, the company is successful, and that is what market is buying.
See, I'll give you I'll give you one example on this
It's
one,
completely-
since we
because
talked
they're
about.
doing that, it's not that they
Yeah.
are successful. They're doing that and people are ignoring it. As somebody said that,
But these are large business models.
being
Yeah,
silent
these-
is also a crime or abatement of crime. And I think that is happening, which is why the market is being is rewarding. But how long this continues, I think is anybody's guess.
See, we have something called SEC in the US. We have SEBI in India. In order to further strengthen the governance framework, there's something called a Sarbanes-Oxley Act that came into place after Enron. There's something called an FCPA declaration that every CFO of a multinational has to sign. Now, what does that FCPA declaration say? You will not going to follow a foreign corrupt practices prevailing in the foreign markets. Now, we all know that if we have to get something done from a government organization or a public sector, there has to be a consultant. Now, what is this consultant doing? Consultant is helping you avoid sign the FCPA declaration. Yes. And we have SEBI here. Now, after SEC and after Sarbanes-Oxley and after FCPA and after SEBI, has the fraud stopped? No, because at the end of the day, and if I go back to the Blue Smart example, they have barred them from approaching the stock exchange. Is that what the law meant? Fine, he's bought his house, he's bought his whatever. He won't, operate in the stock market for a couple of years. Now, the same thing happened to one big investor called Mr. Khosla in US. He was, charged with the insider trading. Okay, couple of years you can't reach the stock market. He's made his money. Okay, there is a pause, he comes back, life is simple. So, it's the law in letter or spirit. Unfortunately, the laws, most of the laws in Indian context are in letter. Unless these are followed in spirit, nothing is going to happen. You can make 100 more laws. Nothing will happen.
So how do we compete in this kind of an environment? What do we do? How do we build that advantage which is non-negotiable?
I think it's got to do with our DNA. In London, I was standing at the metro station and a lady with a kid dropped, this 15 years ago, dropped her paper ticket on the track. Me being that Indian hero, I said, should I get you that ticket? I'm trying to help a lady. Suddenly my colleague stops me and says, no need. My colleague went to the gate and said, I saw this lady drop the ticket on the railway track, please let her go. And the guy let her go. That's called letter versus spirit. Look at countries which follow the law in spirit. Will it take time for India to reach there? Will we reach there one day? Let's hope so. Until we reach there, and until the time we don't change our DNA, our mentality, we can make 100.
So how do we build advantage? I mean, you're saying...
like my friend said, ethics, what is ethics? Ethics is knowing that I can take advantage and I
So
don't
where
take
do we
advantage.
start?
Let me share one example.
So do we even trust the regulator? See, when you're doing business, the first thing is you have to trust the regulator. Now, whether it's the IRDA, whether it's RBI, you pick a regulator and you extend that. You extend, So my thing is that, the regulator should be setting some right examples. Satyam has happened. Similar incidents in other companies have happened. The guys are still not being penalized. The case is still going on.